Amid widespread protests against President Trump's refugee ban and questions about the constitutionality of it, Fox News executive editor and executive vice president John Moody shared his opinion on FoxNews.com. Part of it reads, quote, "The United States allows a great deal of leeway for protest and disagreement. Those who disagree with the president's executive order have taken full advantage of those rights, and rightly so. But their argument that the United States, alone among all countries, cannot restrict who comes in from beyond its shores, is quite simply specious. The protests against anything this president does will continue, and that's fine, as long as they're peaceful. But let's at least admit that they are not about the issues, but the issuer-in-chief." The author of those words, John Moody, joins us now. So you think this is more about the occupant of the Oval Office than the policy?
Oh, sure. I mean, look, there are two things that set all this stuff in motion. First was the shock election result. And, you know, a good portion of the country just can't believe that Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton. The second part has been the very fast out-of-the-blocks start that the president has made, signing a flurry of executive orders, all of which fly in the face of what the political left wishes were happening right now. So, sure, they're taking it out. They're going to take an issue. They're going to say, you know, we demand this, but it's all directed at Trump.
You saw an acting attorney general who basically said this is not legal and we're not going to enforce this.
Right, and what gave her the right to do that? The fact that she was, by succession, the person who was going to be in the office of Attorney General until Jeff Sessions is confirmed, which he will be. But instead, she took a very divisive position over the weekend and tried to just say ignore any of Trump's initiatives.
You wrote about one of the signs you saw during the anti-Trump or anti-orders protests.
Yeah, I was watching on television, and somebody had a placard up there that said, "No borders, no nations." Now, okay, fine, protests are meant to give vent to extreme opinions, but that's lunacy. Of course, countries have to be able to protect their borders, and the United States is no exception.
But what about those who say that this, you know, that temporarily banning travel from 7 nations really gives the U.S. a black eye, especially in the Muslim world?
Well, it may or it may not. I think the rollout of the ban was botched very badly, and I think everyone agrees with that. But the notion that people who come from dangerous areas like Syria, like Iraq, like Iran, cannot be asked to show a little bit of backup for their visa is ludicrous.
You've traveled to Israel. I've traveled to Israel. Yeah. When you go to Israel, you sometimes have to have a removable page, a removable insert in your passport if you then want to go on to Saudi Arabia, for instance,
exactly.
Or some of the other Arab countries.
There's a lot of Arab countries that simply won't let you in if they see evidence that you have been to Israel. Well, I don't see any protests about that.
So the argument is more about Donald Trump's personality, in your view, or the fact that he is making these executive orders rather than the content of the orders?
Sure. I mean, he's an odious creature to a large part of the country. It's understandable. He does do things in a different way. And as I say, he's been rocket fast in following through on some of his campaign pledges, and that just further alienates the left.
What about the notion of the United Nations telling the United States how to deal with its borders and its immigration system?
Yeah, it's an old story. We think that the United Nations, our colleague George Russell is reporting that we think the United Nations is going to name a special commissioner for refugees to deal with exactly this, with Trump's new position on refugees and immigrants. It's a little bit of overreach, even though they do think that they're the world body.
It is going to be fascinating to see where this goes. You don't see this president rescinding this, do you?
I don't think so. He may refine it. There may be some rough edges to it that weren't thought out properly. And again, the rollout of it was pretty bad. But no, he's sticking to his guns.
It's an interesting piece. You can find it on FoxNews.com. John Moody, thank you. And if you'd like to see more opinions and editorials on the hottest topics each and every day, go to FoxNews.com/opinion.